Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast. The podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and in this episode, I'd like to talk to you about the so-called detox symptoms that a lot of people experience, myself included, in the first few days and sometimes weeks when they first cut added sugars, and that can include refined sugar and also refined flour and even sweeteners. It's a huge shift for your body and your brain, and I think it's good to be prepared for the reality of what you might go through, if only for a few days. So I'll talk to you about detox symptoms in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. And while you're at aftersugarclub.com, why not take the cravings quiz? I created this cravings quiz specifically to help you start thinking more deeply about what triggers your cravings. And when you do this quiz, you'll get your personalized score as well as my practical tips to help you take your first step to get rid of cravings. Those free resources are at aftersugarclub.com. And also, come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. All right, so I want to talk about some so-called detox symptoms that you could experience when you stop eating sugar and possibly flour and processed foods and even sweeteners. You may experience feeling worse before you feel better. A lot of people call this phase a detox, and I get why, because it can totally feel uncomfortable, and that's a bit of an understatement. It can actually feel like withdrawal symptoms from drugs. And it can definitely be alarming if you're not expecting it. It certainly was for me. In fact, I still remember, even though it was 11 or so years ago, that on about day 3, after I stopped eating refined sugar and flour and sweeteners, I told my husband, I'm just going to go for a quick lie down. And honestly, I was out of action for 2 whole days. And I felt like I had a really bad flu and I just couldn't function. Now, I have to say that I've never actually taken drugs, so I don't really know what withdrawal from drugs feels like. But with sugar and flour, what I later learned was that what's happening in the body is not necessarily toxins leaving your body, because your liver and your kidneys already do that job just fine. What's actually happening is withdrawal and adjustment. So your body is recalibrating after years, sometimes decades, of running on sugar and refined carbs. Now, you might have the expectation of feeling lighter and more energetic right away when you cut sugar and flour and processed foods. And you may have to adjust those expectations. Because actually what might happen first is that you might get headaches, low energy, even like depressive symptoms, because your body is readjusting to not getting the source of fuel that it's used to, which from carbs is glucose. And that doesn't mean that your body's getting no glucose whatsoever, it's just getting way less of it. And that takes some adjusting. Because for most of us, most of our lives, our body has become very good at burning glucose all day long, because the foods that we're eating turn to glucose really fast. Sugar, flour, highly processed foods, and we're eating many times a day. So there's a constant influx of glucose. And in response, a constant spike in insulin to bring that blood glucose level down. What we're not very good at is switching fuel sources. And this is called metabolic flexibility. And it simply means that the body can move between using glucose as fuel and using fat for fuel. And by fuel, I mean as a source of energy. So when you remove refined sugar and refined flour, the body has an adjustment period and has to relearn that skill of being metabolically flexible. And relearning anything feels difficult and awkward at first. Take it from a teacher. And strangely enough, one of the first detox symptoms that people notice is peeing more. And this definitely caught me off guard, because I thought that something was wrong, that I was dehydrated. But actually, peeing more is tied to insulin. So refined sugar and refined carbs cause insulin levels to stay high, and insulin tells the body to hold on to water and sodium. But when insulin drops, in other words, when you stop eating the foods that spike insulin, the kidneys release that extra water. So yes, you may be peeing more often, and you might even see the scale drop a little bit in the first few days, but that's mostly water loss, not fat loss. And so you really do need to make sure that you're hydrated in those first few days. And this is also why electrolytes matter, because it's not enough just to drink water. It may be better to drink water with salt or broth, not the powdered kind, real broth, or a drink with electrolytes that doesn't include sugar, obviously, because those electrolytes are likely to help with your headaches as well. And I know that it may sound like that's a lot of suffering to go through, but actually it's temporary, just 2 or 3 days usually, and then years of feeling great afterwards. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. So just before the break, I was talking about headaches and the reason why electrolytes matter during the first few days of sugar detox. And headaches can also come from changes in cerebral blood flow, which means that glucose availability influences blood vessel tone in the brain. So during this adjustment period, the nervous system is rebalancing, which can temporarily trigger headaches as well. And another common symptom is fatigue And again, there's a physiological explanation for why you feel so exhausted when you first cut added sugars. You see, when glucose intake drops, the body needs to increase enzymes involved in fat oxidation to burn this other source of fuel, which is fat, whether it's from food or the body fat that's stored in your body. And that process doesn't happen overnight. The mitochondria, which are the energy-producing structures inside your cells, are adapting to this new source of fuel. And until that system is running smoothly, energy output, that means your energy, can feel lower even if you're eating enough. And yes, cravings can often spike before they settle, so the first few days may be challenging. And part of this is neurochemical, because sugar stimulates dopamine release, and when that stimulus is removed, dopamine signaling temporarily dips. Dopamine is the feel-good hormone, so with less of it, the brain interprets this as discomfort and looks for the fastest fix possible. And there's another component that's really important when you're first cutting out added or refined sugars, and that's your gut health. Because certain gut bacteria thrive on sugar and refined carbohydrates, and when their food supply disappears, in other words, when you stop eating those types of foods, those gut bacteria send stronger signals along the gut-brain axis, and those signals can feel like cravings. The good news is that this discomfort is temporary. It absolutely will go away if you let it. And a few days of discomfort is a relatively small price to pay for years of feeling full of energy and free from cravings. Back in 2015, I remember standing in my kitchen after dinner during those first few days, not physically hungry, but kind of restless, just not knowing what to do with myself because I wasn't snacking. It was definitely not a nutritional need because I just used to snack on cookies or ice cream or whatever. But looking back, I now know that it was my nervous system asking for regulation. And I didn't know at the time any other way of calming down than with sugar. I had to learn that over the months and years after. And in those few days, your sleep can change as well, because lower evening insulin and changes in cortisol, the stress hormone, can lead to a lighter sleep or earlier waking. And this usually stabilizes as blood sugar regulation improves. So here's the key point that I want to make clear. All of these so-called detox symptoms are not a sign that anything's wrong with you or that you're not doing this properly. They are just a sign that your body and your brain and your gut are adapting. And this type of adaptation is much easier when you're supported. And I don't mean just emotionally supported by friends and family and other people that understand what you're going through and why you're doing this, but I also mean nutritionally supported. So this is not the time to undereat, cut your calories, over-exercise, or push through exhaustion. This is a time to get enough protein because amino acids support neurotransmitter production, and enough good fats because fat intake from unprocessed foods matters when fat becomes the primary fuel source for your body. And salt matters because insulin changes fluid balance. So make sure you eat enough unprocessed healthy fats and that you get sufficient salt, electrolytes, and hydration. And rest matters because the nervous system is recalibrating and needs that extra rest. Usually when people struggle the most in the first few days, it's often because They stack restriction on top of metabolic transition. It's too much for the body and the brain to handle. Less sugar, less food, more exercise, less sleep. This combination overwhelms the system. So take it easy on yourself. Concentrate on making sure that your blood sugar becomes more stable and that you give your brain time and space to stop asking for quick fixes. And this will allow your energy to feel steadier and for you to stop obsessing about food, or to be more precise, about sugar. When you develop metabolic flexibility, willpower has nothing to do with it. You're not weak and you don't need more discipline. You just need to let your body do exactly what it's designed to do when given the chance to adapt. And this is exactly the type of transition I support people through in my program, The Freedom from Cravings Formula. Because I created this program specifically for women over 50 to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself. And so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. By the time you're 50 and over, you've spent decades looking after everybody else. And now it's your turn to take care of yourself. So let's chat about your specific needs and why you want to break free from cravings. You'll find the link to book a free video chat with me with this episode in the show notes. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.